Premier Wynne participates in a Ring of Fire signing ceremony. Changing demand sets a new tone for the forest industry. And the Minister of Finance pitches a new pension plan. Good evening and thank you for joining us. It was an historic event today for the 9 Mattawa First Nations and the province of Ontario.
Premier Kathleen Wynne and the Mattawa Chiefs gathered in Thunder Bay to celebrate the signing of a framework agreement, which will guide the negotiations for developing the Ring of Fire. Both sides say this is the crucial first step in determining how the $80 billion mining proposal moves ahead. Jonathan Wilson reports.
More than 400 people, many of them bussed in from the 9 Mattawa First Nations, gathered to celebrate last month's signing of a framework agreement. 1 month after she became Premier last year, Kathleen Wynne had invited the 9 chiefs to meet with her in the caucus room at Queen's Park. Now, 1 year later, she says they've reached a mutual understanding regarding developing the Ring of Fire.
I think that often the starting point of our conversations has been there isn't enough to go around. And so we have to have a fight because we don't believe that we can actually share. And I guess I want to say, I believe we can share.
All of the chiefs and politicians here gave credit to the 2 main Ring of Fire negotiators, Bob Ray for Mattawa and Frank Yakabuchi for the province, for helping make this day happen. Nescantica Chief Peter Muniz says the 9 communities are making a united stand and calls this the first step to a better arrangement with the province.
Because our communities are waiting for the benefits. That's a long time coming. And we want to say thank you to the province of Ontario coming to our table to finally come with some kind of working arrangement that we can work together.
And the other chiefs agree it's up to them to ensure the far north is protected throughout the process.
Water is going to be just like gold in your future. So this is what we have to preserve and protect as we go through the framework agreement.
I like to say this is our land. I never hear the other chiefs or the other people speak that this is my territory, this is our home. This is our land, and we are the keepers of our land.
The First Nations had to be asked to decide whether the project goes. We have to have a final say on it because it's the territory of the First Nations people.
The Premier says even though a framework agreement is now in place, she's not about to set any timelines for when a road to the Ring of Fire will be built or when the first mine might open.
Today is about this agreement and the significance of the coming together of a consensus around how to work together. And so, as the chiefs have said, now the work begins, and we have a framework within which to do that. I'm very, very optimistic about going forward.
No timelines?
No timeline.
Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
Now, with a possible provincial election looming following next week's delivery of a new budget, Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals appear to be losing ground to Tim Hudak and the Progressive Conservatives. According to the results of a new Ipsos-Reid CTV poll, Hudak and the Tories have opened up a 5-point lead over Wynne's Liberals in popular support. The NDP sits at 27% of decided voters, with the Greens well back at 5%. According to the poll, about 20% of Ontario voters remain undecided. That poll was conducted between April 15th and 17th and contacted a total of 817 Ontarians.
A Thunder Bay police constable has been found not guilty of charges of assault. The charge against Constable Andrew Johnston was laid following a Special Investigations Unit probe into an incident last May at the Balmoral Police Station. The alleged incident involved a 43-year-old suspect who had been arrested on an impaired driving charge. After a trial in which video of incident was played in court, a judge has ruled there was no excessive use of force and the charge was dismissed.
Thunder Bay's new consolidated courthouse played host to a major official opening ceremony last evening. A full day of events were scheduled to mark the occasion, capped by an official ribbon cutting. It's hoped the new facility will lead to major improvements in the local justice system, particularly in the way First Nations are represented. Dennis Ward has more.
And with that, Thunder Bay's Consolidated Courthouse is officially open for business. This new facility has been roughly 30 years in the making, and after 4 years of construction, it is evident a lot of thought and energy went into the design and development of the 6-story building. Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Bill Morrow, is proud to be part of a government that delivered the project. He feels the courthouse will improve justice services and rejuvenate the downtown.
There was some comments from a number of the retailers downtown South Core who have already said that they've noticed a difference. Anytime you bring in 150 permanent staff, as well as all the rest of the traffic that will be coming in here on a daily basis, it will have an impact, there's no doubt. And as I mentioned, I think I see it as a beginning piece, hopefully, as we work to create a critical mass in the downtown South Core.
Ontario Regional Chief Stan Beardy says from the outside, the Consolidated Courthouse is a beautiful building, but he's concerned about what it represents.
When I look at statistics of First Nation people across Ontario, across Canada, I'm very concerned. For example, Kenora, this summer it had 137 inmates, 131 of them are First Nation people. So either First Nation people are all bad or there's the system is flawed.
Aboriginal culture played a prominent role in the opening ceremonies. Numerous elements of the facility's design also represent Aboriginal traditions, including the province's first Aboriginal Conference Settlement Suite. But even the Attorney General, Madeleine Mayar, acknowledges First Nations people are overrepresented in the correctional system.
We need to work with them to help reduce that overrepresentation in our correctional system. So I see only a positive step moving forward.
The final cost of the courthouse project over 30 years is $473 million. The province says it is still too early to say what will happen with the two former courthouses. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
The impending arrival of more snow in our area has Thunder Bay OPP issuing a caution. The forecast is calling for as much as 10 centimeters of snow or more overnight, coupled with strong winds. And that has police warning motorists about the possibility of reduced visibility and hazardous driving conditions. They're also reminding drivers to be on the lookout for emergency responders and the need for motorists to move to the left when safe to do so. Phil Darlington will have more on the weather outlook later in the news hour. And the Thunder Bay Police have now released surveillance footage from a robbery that occurred Tuesday evening at a Shell gas bar on Arthur Street. Two men dressed in black hoodies, gray sweatpants, and black and white bandanas covering their faces entered the store at around 11:30 p.m. wielding a hatchet. The men threatened the clerk before fleeing the scene with an undisclosed amount of cash. There were no injuries during the robbery. Anyone with information is asked to contact Thunder Bay Police Service.
There is blossoming hope among over 150 people converging on the Ontario Professional Foresters Association annual general meeting that got underway in the city today. The need for wood products is changing, and industry leaders say the focus will have to be on technology to meet that demand. John Thompson reports.
The markets are changing, and Don Roberts is watching. Roberts is the CEO of a company that advises investors on global trends. While he sees little promise in pulp and paper, he does see Northwestern Ontario's advantages, such as its wood supply and the tools that were in place before the forestry collapse. $95 billion has been invested in bioenergy development worldwide, and Roberts says there's growth potential when an energy component complements the solid wood side of the forestry industry.
The thing that you've got here is that you've got some established infrastructure. So the issue is what do you do with it? And increasingly what we're looking at is changing just from a producer of straight newsprint or say NBSK pulp to a biorefinery, where it's really a concept coming out of the oil industry where we produce a whole array of products. The issue is that which products do you do? And I think there is some opportunity here if you're a first mover.
With a rebound in the U.S. housing market, demand for lumber is rising, but Canada has begun diversifying its export strategy along with its products. Forest Products Association of Canada Executive Vice President Catherine Cobden points to Terrace Bay's Burla Mill. It's an example of the way the region can join the textile supply chain to India, while China's been consuming over 3 times more of Canada's wood than it did a decade ago.
seeing an adoption of new technologies and a diversification of markets by the companies operating in Northwestern Ontario, as well as the companies operating across the country. So the Canadian forest industry is positioning itself for the future by diversifying its marketplace. Like, for example, we are the largest exporter of anything from Canada to China. Really important positioning because, of course, China is a massive growth opportunity.
Employment in forestry is expected to grow by 25% over the next 6 years. In the short term, look for Canada to start marketing its combination of low taxes, a responsible public sector, and environmental certification as an ethical alternative to cheap wood from its international rivals. On the horizon, however, forestry is expected to move into three-dimensional printing and synthetic biology. Succeeding in that market will require more research and development than it will axes and saws. John Thompson, TBT News.
Minister of Labour and the Status of Women announced some financial support today to increase economic options for women in First Nations communities here in the North. Dr. Kelly Leach was at the Anishinaabe Nation offices where she announced $200,000 will be given to NAN. The goal is to help integrate more women into the working community. Leach says 16% of small businesses in Canada are run by women, most of whom are Aboriginal. They employ 1.5 million Canadians and contributed $148 billion to the economy last year. Leach believes this money will help teach the last skill set needed to help these women move forward.
Important for all Canadian women to have economic independence, but in particular, I think in circumstances like we see here, this rapidly expanding economy where there's well-educated women that just need the additional skill sets to be able to either start their own business or contribute to the great Ring of Fire experience, this will provide them that opportunity.
More than 100 women will benefit from this project, and it's hoped the 24-month-long initiative will become a more permanent fixture.
The final flight for United Airlines left Thunder Bay this morning, bound for Chicago. United announced in January that it was canceling its passenger service between the two cities effective today. The once-a-day flights began on February 14th of 2013 on a trial basis. According to officials at the Thunder Bay Airport, United decided that moving their flight to some other location would bring in a higher profit. Airport CEO Scott McFadden says they're hoping to find another carrier to provide direct flights to the U.S., but he says they plan to proceed very carefully.
Certainly once bitten, twice shy, so we have a bit of a hangover period to deal with for certain. You know, we'll see how the industry evolves south of the border. It's not, you know, a Canadian carrier serving a U.S. market directly out of Thunder Bay will not fit with a Canadian carrier's business model, but the industry in the United States evolves quickly, so the first opportunity we see, we'll be on it.
United Airways has refused to provide any statistics regarding how many people were using the Thunder Bay to Chicago route.
Area students are taking a stand against bullying, racism, social injustice, and world hunger. Close to 1,400 secondary and elementary students attended the We Stand Up conference today. Phil Darlington spoke to organizers to find out how those students are being empowered.
We Stand Up is a smaller version of We Day, which is held every year across the country. It's designed to empower large numbers of students. Free the Children co-founder Craig Kielberger is this year's keynote speaker, and he has been involved with the movement for almost 20 years.
And Thunder Bay has organized their own, what we call a mini We Day, the We Stand Up, this challenge to young people to find a cause they care about, to find the gift they have to make a positive impact in the world, and then to bring that together to help their local and global communities.
The change starts with students understanding the issues that face their community.
Students are often unaware or act as bystanders to things that exist, not necessarily within the school, but in the community as a whole. So it's really important to make them aware of some of the things that are going on. And
the events and elements of the day were organized by students and school staff, and it comes as no surprise that it took a lot of hours and dedication to put it all together.
We've been working on this event for months. We have a planning committee of about maybe 18 of students, some teachers and staff, and we've been having regular meetings once a week or twice a week since January.
We would meet and plan like who we wanted to bring, and then organize the schedule and what kind of message we really wanted to portray and how we wanted to present that to the students of Thunder Bay.
The feeling appears to be consistent among all students. This is an important day, and students feel it is important to be empowered and make a difference.
It's really important. I mean, youth empowerment is such a big thing because youth can make such a great difference, and they really have the passion to make a difference. So as long as that's sparked, which is what we're trying to do, then there's so much that can be done.
Phil Darlington, TBT News.
Yeah, we had Phil doing double duty today, so he's done that. Now he's back. It must be Thursday. He's got some good news for us. We got another snowstorm coming, don't we, Phil?
Yeah, good news is not the phrase I would use. However, I will start with the slightly better news. Today's high was 6 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. So not too bad as the day kicked off. Winds were picking up out of the east up to 13 kilometers an hour and at times gusting up to 34 kilometers an hour. Those conditions were quite consistent throughout northwestern Ontario. However, as we moved into the afternoon and now into the evening hours, we can see this precipitation band start to move in. This is just sort of the leading edge. Fort Frances, Atikokan, seeing a little bit of rain. That's going to turn into snow later on this evening. Pickle Lake has seen clouds roll in, and they're sitting at 10 degrees right now. That's going to cool off in the overnight hours. Greenstone right now, 8 degrees under partially cloudy skies, and Sault Ste. Marie has dropped down from their daytime high to 8 degrees under partially cloudy skies as well. That precipitation is going to roll in the form of snow in the overnight hours, and we are under a snowfall warning for the region. I know not what people want to hear for this time in April. We're almost into May. 9 to 10 centimeters in the overnight hours, so if you have to be out on the roads, use extreme caution. Winds are also going to pick up out of the east-southeast at holding usually steady at 24 kilometers an hour, but could see gusts as strong as 38 kilometers an hour. Temperatures will warm up as we go into Friday. However, that precipitation will stay with us. The snow coming in from northern Ontario will mix with warmer air and form rain right along the border. So it'll be snow in the morning and rain sort of in and around noon as we move into the afternoon. Right now, for the evening and moving into tomorrow, Thunder Bay, Nipigon, Marathon, Superior North, and Superior West are all under that snowfall warning. Could see anywhere from 10 to 15, even as high as 20 centimeters of snow over the next 24 hours. However, I'll have good news coming up later on in the news hour.
I think we could all use some good news after that. All right, thanks very much, Phil. Well, after calls from across the country for reform, the Harper government is pitching a new plan for pensions here in Canada, and they're looking for public input on that plan. We'll have details for you right after these words.
The government is now
Ottawa has unveiled its new proposal for pension plans.
Target benefit plans will offer a sustainable, innovative pension option.
The government is calling it a new and innovative way to protect retirees. So-called target benefit plans would fall between current defined benefit and defined contribution plans. Ottawa is looking for feedback on the proposal from the public over the next 60 days.
There was a decision from Elections Canada today regarding misleading calls made to some voters in the last federal election. The agency says no one will be charged as a result of its investigation. Julie Van Dusen reports.
Democratic Reform Minister Pierre Poilievre is often disdainful of Elections Canada. Today, he's a fan.
I think it just confirms what I've been saying all along, which is that the Conservative Party ran an honest, ethical campaign and won the election legitimately with the support of Canadians.
Your poll location has been changed.
That's the message heard by many Canadians in the last election, directing them to the wrong polling station. The calls came from a recorded voice pretending to be Elections Canada. The agency received complaints from 260 of 308 ridings across the country. The overwhelming number of calls came from one lobby group. Elections Canada did find that incorrect poll locations were given to some electors and that some nuisance calls did occur, but it could not prove there was intent to mislead voters.
Now we have a report from a commissioner who has all the powers of a police authority to conduct an investigation, that there is no evidence to suggest any of the false allegations wherever had any merit.
But in fact, Elections Canada points out it does not have the ability to compel witnesses to testify. But Poilievre didn't want to address that.
How does it give him the power of a police authority when he can't compel witnesses?
How's it going?
Fine, how are you?
The Liberals say that because Elections Canada was hampered, the Tories are not vindicated.
The electoral officials have not been able to have all of the tools at their disposal to do their job properly.
Outside the hotel where Poilievre was speaking, a small crowd denounced changes he's proposing to the Elections Act. They say those changes won't stop robocalls.
This act doesn't prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future is deeply concerning.
One person has been charged with the misleading robocalls made in the last election in Guelph, Ontario. Michael Sona will appear in court June 2nd. Julie Van Dusen, CBC News, Ottawa.
Democratic Reform Minister Pierre Poilievre also spoke today about his controversial proposal to rewrite Canada's election laws.
The Fair Elections Act, in its final form, will require every single voter produce ID showing who they are before they vote.
The minister responsible for the Harper government's Fair Elections Act says tougher identification requirements will stay in the bill, but Poilievre indicates there will be some other amendments.
A new proposal governing internet traffic is creating a furor. In the U.S., regulators are considering a move that would allow big companies that pay more to get their content delivered more quickly. The idea is being criticized as anti-competitive, bad for consumers, and even democracy. Havard Gould reports.
The internet has allowed small companies to turn ideas into big business in a hurry. Like Netflix, the streaming service that has become one of the most successful .com companies of all time. Under proposed new rules, Netflix would be able to pay internet service providers in the U.S. extra to get higher speed service for what's called the last mile, right into consumers' homes. The idea is often described as a high-speed lane for big companies willing to pay an extra toll. Online today, it is being savaged as an assault on the principles of the internet, a violation of what's called net neutrality, the idea of equal access for all.
When the issue ultimately comes down to speed, I think a war of attrition will take place.
Hamza Khan has a small digital marketing company. He fears that if big companies can get preferential service, little ones will suffer.
They're going to be weeded out, and this is going to force the internet to become a lot smaller. And it's almost like a throwback to the way that things were before the internet, in which a few channels controlled all of the information, all of the content.
I'm a big believer in net neutrality.
Fueling the anger, U.S. President Barack Obama once promised to never compromise on net neutrality. Now, advocates on both sides of the border are arguing the proposed rules could even damage democracy.
From a citizen perspective, really, that means that the internet could turn into something more like television, where there's a kind of prescribed menu of choices, rather than an open platform for discussion and free expression and innovation.
Aware of the rapidly rising anger, the U.S. regulator put out a statement today promising it will not allow consumers or competition to be harmed. A promise that failed to even slow the frenzy building online. Harvard Gould, CBC News, Toronto.
U.S. President Barack Obama is in Japan. The visit is part of a four-nation tour with his closest allies in Asia. It's also an attempt to make good on a promise he made 3 years ago to step up the U.S. presence in the region. And as Kimberly Gale reports from Tokyo, it's coming at a time of heightened regional tensions.
U.S. President Barack Obama kicked off his Tokyo visit by making a high-tech friend.
Mr. President, I'm Asimov, a humanoid robot. It is a pleasure to meet you.
But the point of Obama's visit here is to deal with thornier relations with two countries he won't be visiting, China and North Korea. There's rising tension in the region over China's growing assertiveness and North Korea's threat of a fourth nuclear test.
Large countries, small countries, all have to abide by what is considered just and fair, and that we are resolving disputes in peaceful fashion.
The last U.S. president to be welcomed by Japan as a state guest was nearly 2 decades ago, so there's a lot of business to attend to. Obama and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe discussed the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a proposed trade deal that includes Canada, as well as security and regional relations. Obama gave Abe the support he was hoping for by reaffirming a decades-old commitment to defend Japan. The U.S. treaty includes a chain of islands both Japan and China claim. Called the Senkaku in Japan, they've been a sore spot between the two countries, and that dispute is one of great international concern.
Let me reiterate that our treaty commitment to Japan's security is absolute, and Article 5 covers all territories under Japan's administration, including the Senkaku Islands.
It's the strongest recent statement of support for Japan by a U.S. president in regards to the territorial dispute. Japan is the first stop on Obama's week-long Asia tour. He also heads to South Korea, Malaysia, and the Philippines. The challenge for the U.S. president will be to keep those countries happy while not harming ties with China. Kimberly Gale, CBC News, Tokyo.
Australian transport officials have now confirmed an earlier report. An object that washed ashore on the country's southwestern coast is not from Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. After examining detailed photos, Australian experts have ruled out any connection to the missing airliner. Meanwhile, a robot sub has now scanned most of the target area in the southern Indian Ocean and have found nothing linked to the flight. The plane vanished back on March 8th with 239 people on board.
The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are winding down their royal tour in Australia. They began their day by planting trees at the National Arboretum. Will and Kate are leaving the country tomorrow after a 3-week visit to Australia and New Zealand. In the evening, the royals attended their last formal reception. Prince William thanked the Australian people for their hospitality and praised Australia's quality of life.
And no sign of baby George. Guess he didn't make it to the gala. Let's take a look at today's closing market numbers now. The TSX up 20 points today to 14,554. Dow held steady at 16,501. The NASDAQ up 21 points to 41.48. Dollar inched up slightly to 98.68 cents U.S. Gold was also up to $1,290 an ounce, and oil closed at just below $102 a barrel. This year's opening round of the NHL playoffs, if there was one series you thought was a clear mismatch, it had to be Pittsburgh-Columbus. On a talent-for-talent basis, there's no comparison. Pittsburgh with far more recognizable and talented players. Columbus has played them to a draw so far, though. They look good.
Yeah, they sort of remind me of the Florida Panthers way back when they made the playoffs and got all the way to the final in their second year of existence. Just a bunch of nobodies who outworked the other team. And Columbus, compared to Pittsburgh in that...
Brandon Dubinsky, at this point, would get the MVP of the playoffs if kept on going.
Yeah, give him the Conn Smythe now. Well, San Jose can join Montreal in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs with a win over the Kings in LA tonight. They lead that series 3-0. And you can see that game on Thunder Bay Television, CKPR, beginning at 10 o'clock. Detroit's Henrik Zetterberg will be a game-time decision as the Wings host Boston. He has not played in over 2 months with a herniated disc in his back. The Bees lead 2-1 in that series. In Minnesota, minus Matt Cook, who was gone for 7 games for that knee hit on Tyson Barrie of Colorado, the Wild hope to even their series without Cook in the lineup against Colorado with a win on home ice. Last night, Penguins race out to a 3-1 first period lead on Columbus. The real deal, James Neal, his first goal of the series off a short pass from Jussi Jokinen, beating Sergei Bobrovsky. There's no quitting the Jackets as they inch closer in the second. Ryan Johansson on the power play with easy tap in. We had a 1-goal game. Penguins goalie Marc-Andre Fleury misplays it behind the net, and the Jackets send it to overtime as Brandon Dubinsky buries the pass out with 22 seconds left. Early in overtime, RJ Umberger finds Nick Foligno with a flip pass, and he'll wire it past Fleury. Marc-Andre should have had that one. We got a series tied at 2. Columbus wins it 4-3. Overtime also required in Chicago, and Patrick Kane would cap a 2-goal game with a game winner midway through the first overtime with the wrister pass Ryan Miller. Hawks tie the Blues at 2, winning 4-3. And Anaheim couldn't hold a 2-goal lead as the Stars score 4 unanswered goals to pull it out 4-2. That series is also now deadlocked at 2 apiece. Fort Francis has won its second SIJHL championship, edging the Minnesota Iron Rangers last night 3-2 in the 7th and deciding game. Lakers forward Miles Nolan has been named playoff MVP. He racked up 10 goals in only 13 games. The Lakers now head to the Dudley Hewitt Cup in Wellington, Ontario next week. And 47-year-old curler Kevin Martin is retiring. The 4-time Canadian and former world champ, who also has an Olympic gold medal in his mantelpiece, says he'll stay in the sport as a broadcaster and teacher.
37-year-old Kevin Martin has officially taken himself out of competitive curling. As a player, his final shot was a draw to the button.
Fans are on their feet. Kevin Martin goes out as a champion.
That turned out okay, yeah.
The 2010 Olympic gold medalist defeated Brad Jacobs, the 2014 Olympic gold medalist, to win the Players' Championship, the 8th of Martin's illustrious career.
It's a fantastic finish, not only just because it was the last event, but also because of the Players' Championship, which is, other than the Olympics, my favorite event. So it kind of all came together all at the right time.
Martin first surfaced on the provincial scene in the mid-'80s. The native of Killam skipped Alberta to a Canadian junior crown in 1985. He went on to win his first Brier 6 years later.
I've seen him for 30 years. Like, he's the best. You know, and his dedication and the hours that he puts on, we practice for sure as much as anybody. And that was an essential part, like basics. And that's basic being our relationship since '84. We just sort of met, and we both wanted the same thing, like throw the rock perfect, as perfect as you can throw it.
In 2001, he began focusing more of his attention on the World Curling Tour, where he captured 18 Grand Slam titles.
Like, I get back to that 18th slam, that's something, geez, I want that bad.
And over the course of his career, Martin amassed an estimated $2 million in prize money.
I am able to walk away from the curling part of the game with my head held high.
John Sexsmith, Global Sports.
Lakehead's women's basketball team has added 3 new recruits. They are Seaforth, Ontario forward Bridget O'Reilly. The 5'10 wing averaged 15 points a game in high school. And a pair of guards, Unionvale's August Ricketts and Newmarket's Lindsay Edward, who won a gold medal at OFSAs. Both are club players from Barrie. The Blue Jays wrap up a 3-game series with Baltimore tonight. Drew Hutchison tries for his second win of the year. Last night, not a good start for Jays pitcher Dustin McGowan. He'll hang a breaking ball, and Chris Davis, with a flick of the wrist, who always hits pretty well against Toronto, rounds the bases for the second time. That's a solo homer in the first. Jays respond in the second off O's ace Chris Tillman. Brett Laurie parks a high fastball deep to left for his fifth-round tripper. That one a 3-run shot. And then it's shortstop Jose Reyes, and he'll yank a changeup. This one the other way over the right field wall. It's his first long ball of the season. Jays in charge at 5-1, top three. Baltimore gets a couple back thanks to this blast to left by former Texas Ranger Nelson Cruz. That's his fifth dinger of the year. Then in his next at bat, Cruz does it again off of a different pitcher. Same outcome though. Todd Redmond is lit up to left. It's a grand slam homer, his second of the game. Orioles go on to win it 10-8. And we can also tell you New York Yankees pitcher Michael Pineda has been suspended 10 games by Major League Baseball. The umpires discovered that he had pine tar on his neck. Memphis Grizzlies guard Mike Conley is the winner of the NBA's Joe Dumars Trophy for sportsmanship. His team is back home to host Oklahoma City tonight. They're tied at 1. The Toronto Raptors are in Brooklyn getting ready for Game 3 of their Eastern Conference quarterfinal with Brooklyn. That goes tomorrow night. DeMar DeRozan squared that series at 1 with a game-high 30 points. He's quickly becoming the face of the franchise. Rob Leff has more.
You saw a completely different DeMar DeRozan in Game 2.
DeRozan straight line drive, with the left hand!
The main reason why the Raptors were able to even their first-round playoff series against the Brooklyn Nets.
He goes out there and goes for 30, makes big shots, and it just shows he's growing. He's an all-star for a reason.
After hitting only 3 shots in Game 1, DeRozan was a man possessed on Tuesday night, connecting for 30 points.
Here's DeMar. DeRozan 9 here in the fourth. Nudged, fires, good!
18 of those coming in the final quarter.
Just being more aggressive, being more decisive, not second guessing myself on certain shots or things like that.
Many of the shots difficult to execute, requiring a high level of skill. DeRozan looking like a playoff veteran rather than a player with only 1 game of postseason experience.
I think they're good shots for him. You're probably not going to be able to get to the rim every time against this team because they do a great job of packing the paint.
Even my workout before pregame, I always shoot unconventional shots, fadeaways, leaning, pump fakes.
The win not only got the Raptors back on even terms with the Nets heading back to Brooklyn, it also silenced DeRozan's critics.
He's a franchise player. He's our best player, and I think for him to do what he did last night was a really huge step to shut a lot of people out. To just don't talk about me because I got this.
Getting this city jacked up in the process.
Downhill ski coach Andreas Evers has been sentenced to 4 months in prison and 20 months probation today for his role in a money laundering scheme. An Austrian court found him guilty of laundering over $2 million a former girlfriend allegedly stole from a computer company. And for the first time in 3 years, Vancouver will host a UFC card June 14th. Tickets for UFC 174 go on sale Saturday. Here's a preview.
For MMA fans, it's taken a long time to return to Vancouver, 3 years to be exact. Not because the UFC didn't want to fight in a province which on a per capita basis boasts the most UFC MMA fans than anywhere else in the world. It just wanted better operating conditions. It has that now thanks to a new provincial athletic commission. But that doesn't mean the city of Vancouver has rolled out the red carpet. Not a single member of council or a city representative was at Tuesday's press conference.
The relationship with the city of Vancouver, I would best describe it as you should ask me what my relationship is with Canucks Sports and Entertainment and with the Rogers Arena, which is fabulous. And what's our relationship with the fans from Vancouver, and it's fabulous.
UFC 174 features its first ever flyweight champion Demetrius Johnson defending his championship belt. BC's very own Rory McDonald, the UFC's second-ranked welterweight, will fight Tyron Woodley in a championship contender elimination bout.
I'm going to be a completely different fighter from what you've seen last time, hopefully in a good way. And as far as promoting and being a being on the top of a card. It comes with the territory. I think I've went through enough to feel comfortable with it, and I think being a co-main event and my home turf is a good learning curve going ahead, fighting for the title hopefully next.
UFC 174 in Vancouver goes Saturday, June 14th. Jay Janower, Global Sports.
Should be an exciting card. Should be a good hockey game tonight. Sharks at 10:30. If they win, they join Montreal in round 2.
Yeah, as Randy has mentioned, a late start to the NHL playoff action on Thunder Bay Television tonight, but there is plenty else there for you to watch with your complete rundown. Here's tonight's edition of Teletalk.
Tonight on Global Thunder Bay, starting at 8, it's Growing Up Fisher, and Mel thinks his son is becoming a slacker. At 8:30 on The Millers, Nathan pitches a show to his boss based on an imaginary comic book. At 9 on Working the Angles, Jenna befriends a stripper in order to get a family heirloom back. At 9:30, it's the premiere of the comedy Bad Teacher, based on the hit movie of the same name. And at 10 on Elementary, a surprise visit from Mycroft creates tension between Holmes and Watson. Over on CKPR Thunder Bay at 8, it's The Nature of Things and Faking the Grade at 9. And at 10:30, the San Jose Sharks take on the Kings in Los Angeles. Teletalk is brought to you by Points, the traffic ticket specialists.
Now, as mentioned earlier, Phil, you said 10 centimeters of snow on the way. Hoping that pink tie means it's not going to be sticking around?
Well, I tried to wear something a little bit more cheerful. Yes, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Over the next 24 hours, we are expecting to see snow. and that's not what he wants to see, but there is good news on the horizon. Today we hit a daytime high of 6 degrees, as I said earlier, under partially cloudy skies. Winds were coming out of the east, pretty calm at 13, but we did occasionally see gusts up to 34 kilometers an hour. Conditions were mixed right across Canada. Vancouver took all day to get up to their daytime high of 12 degrees, and that's where they're sitting at this hour. They're also seeing a little bit of rain, which has sort of been on and off throughout the day and will continue into the evening hours. On the other side of the Rockies, Edmonton is at 5 degrees and Calgary is at 11. They just reached their daytime high under partially cloudy skies. Those trends were quite common right across the prairies. Regina is sitting at 11. They've cooled off a little bit from their daytime high, but it took them most of the morning and most of the afternoon to get up there. Winnipeg is sitting at 2 degrees at this hour under partially cloudy skies with a little bit of precipitation coming in the evening hours. Churchill's still up at -7 for the evening. What we can expect to see, however, is precipitation rolling in. Toronto is seeing 11 degrees under partially cloudy skies right now, but that will change as we move into tomorrow. Much of Ontario will actually see precipitation going into the weekend. Ottawa and Montreal currently sitting at 12 degrees under mostly sunny skies. Similar conditions up in Quebec, but a little bit cooler. However, as we move off to the east coast, Fredericton seeing snow at this hour, and they are also under a snowfall warning for the overnight hours moving into tomorrow. Halifax getting some freezing rain at 0 degrees. Charlottetown, similar conditions. And St. John's is currently sitting at 0 degrees with rain coming into the overnight. Today, we saw clouds quite heavy for most of the day, a little bit of sun creeping through, but as we get into tomorrow, those clouds will get a lot heavier and we'll start to see that precipitation. As we move out of tomorrow, however, and on into Saturday, clear skies, and that's what I'm sure everybody wants to see. Overnight tonight, we are going to see precipitation right across the northwestern region, temperatures hovering in and around the freezing mark for most of the area. However, up in Big Trout Lake, they will drop down to -8 degrees. Like I said, snow all night. Most of the area is either under a snowfall warning or a snowfall watch, and that will continue as we move into tomorrow. However, temperatures will warm up, and as I pointed out earlier, rain is sort of hovering in and around the border, so we might see it get a little bit slushy as we move on into tomorrow. Right now, we've dropped down from our daily high to 2 degrees under mostly cloudy skies, but that snow will start to pick up as the nighttime rolls in. Like I said before, 9 to 10 centimeters expected, and the winds will continue to increase in speed coming out of the east-southeast with speeds reaching up to 33 kilometers an hour. What that means for tomorrow, snow in the morning. It's going to be a snow and rain gross kind of mix around noon. However, tapering off into the afternoon, we will see conditions get a lot nicer. Get out of your way so we can see the 5-day forecast. Friday, like I said, is going to be gross. It'll continue on into the overnight into Saturday, tapering off. And moving into the weekend, we're going to see temperatures start to get to where they should be for this time of year and some sun to melt that snow.
Well, time now for our weekly trip to the Thunder Bay and District Humane Society shelter. Tonight, Fiona Gardner introduces us to a 6-year-old domestic cat. His name is Cato.
Hi, this week's Humane Society Pet of the Week is a real charmer here. This is Cato, who is a 6-year-old domestic medium hair who was brought into the Humane Society as a stray. This guy is about as easygoing as they get. He gets along with cats, gets along with dogs, but you know, when it comes to his own home, he'd probably be best for a home where he's going to be on his own and kind of king of the castle. He's always kind of gone his own way, and now he is looking for a home with you where he can cuddle and show some affection, but still be in charge. If you'd like to meet Cato, come to the Humane Society.
Your Pet of the Week has been brought to you by Thunder Pet, expert advice and high-quality pet food.
Okay, stay with us. When we return, we're going to show you some video that's graphic evidence of why those flashing lights at rail crossings have to be observed. It's scary stuff, folks. We'll be back in just a minute. Okay, a heart-stopping reminder now about why it's so important to obey those rail signals. Watch what happens when this elderly man tries to race a speeding train. It's so close, the train actually clips him, setting him and his shoe flying. Now, amazingly, this guy does get up and walk away. Here we go. Watch this again. Boom. Ouch. More amazingly, watch this gray car. He gets up, and this fellow's so concerned, he just nonchalantly drives away, leaving our poor old friend to try and figure out what the heck happened. Unbelievable.
And to recap our top story of the day, Premier Kathleen was in Thunder Bay to celebrate the signing of a framework agreement that could mean big things for the Ring of Fire.
And there are 3 more Stanley Cup playoff games. San Jose with a win can move on and join Montreal into round 2.
Keep in mind that if you're going out in the overnight hours, we are under a snowfall warning, so just take care on the roads.
And that'll do it for tonight's look at news, weather, and sports. Thanks for being with us, and have a good evening.